for joining us on the Ben and Liam podcast. But the boys are now enjoying their holidays. So it's up to just you and me to review the year that brought us glee. It's the Ben and Liam Best of Podcast.
Story time.
There's a Ben in there, and Liam too. There's homeschool today. Parents don't know what to do. Turn up the dial and listen for a while. It's story time.
Okay, kids, how you doing? Today, I'll be reading The Big Boat by James Cameron.
Are you doing Titanic? This isn't appropriate for kids.
No, this is The Big Boat.
Liam,
James Cameron.
at the end, they all...
Yeah. Oh, g'day, guys. I'm Liam, and here's where our story starts. Once upon a time, there was a big boat that everyone said was indestructible. It was the biggest boat in the world. People came from all over to have a little ride in it, including Rose, a beautiful princess, and Jack, a poor bin boy from the wrong end of town. Little did they know that they would fall in love. Wow. Should we flip the page?
I'm really there for this story.
One night, Jack and Rose met each other on the big boat, and they did a little jig in the downstairs bit.
That's nice.
They also got into a car at one point and did a little jig in there too, but we won't talk about that anymore. Okay, later that night, the big boat hit an ice cube.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. And then bubbles started shooting out of the bottom of the boat, going everywhere. And it started to sink. So all the passengers, including the band,
All of them?
had to go for a long swim. Rose has a special piece of wood, though, so she can keep nice and dry. And her lover, Jack, is in the water. But because she's a greedy capitalist piggy, she makes Jack swim, and he gets all wet. The end.
It's story time.
I think you did that as well as you could.
I think I explained it well.
I think you explained it pretty good.
Ben and Liam, dopamine for your ears.
Now, the story that Liam chose to do yesterday was Titanic. I didn't necessarily
that
think...
was The Big Boat by James Cameron.
Sorry, I just didn't think it was necessarily super appropriate for kids. You told it pretty well, though.
Okay, well, I've got a different story this time.
More.
Yeah,
kids.
it's a good message for kids. It's sort of
Cool.
It's it teaches them from wrong and right.
Okay, great. We'll find out what that story is in just a second. But first, let's meet the kids that are here for story time. The first one is Will, who's 8 years old. Morning, Will.
Morning.
Hey, mate, thanks for coming to story time. Let's see who else is gathering around this morning. It's Emily. How old are you, Emily?
10.
You're 10. Okay. And we've also got Elise. How old are you?
I'm 9.
9.
You're 9.
Okay, so
guys.
Liam's about to tell you a fun story, and at the end, we're going to do question time.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions about Liam's story, you get a chance to ask it at the end. Take it away, Liam.
Okay. Well, today, kids, I'll be reading Greedy Mr. Wolfie of Wallstreet by Martin Scorsese.
This is not appropriate.
Don't worry about it. Once upon a time, there lived a wolf called Jordan Belfort. He wanted a little more than the other wolves, so he went to the big smoke to make some serious bacon. And when Wolfie arrived, he meets a wizard called Matthew McConaughey, who teaches him the magic penny stocks spell. It's a wisey, it's a wilsey, forgassy, Faraday. Wolfie repeats after him and starts using the penny stock spell to exploit the other animals so he can buy a bigger cave. Along the way, he marries Margot Robbie and starts developing a real sweet tooth. He develops an obsession with desserts. And sometimes he eats so much dessert that it makes him dizzy. So dizzy he can't even walk to his wolfmobile. Wolfie's wife Margot tells him to leave the cave, lay off the dessert, and stop using the evil spell. And he says, "We ain't ever leaving." Then the federal piggies arrest him. He does 4 years in the jailhouse with all the Hamburglers, and now he sells pens at motivational speaking events. And that's the end of our story.
Very good. Very good. Round of applause for Liam, everyone. There we go.
No, oh no, there's one snatter of, I think that was from Elise there.
All right,
All
let's
right,
do question time.
Question time.
Will, did you have a question for Liam?
What dessert does Wolfie like?
What dessert? Banana splits and Maxibons mainly. He loved Maxibons.
Good question, Will. Emily from Manapara, did you have a question for Liam?
Was his wife Margot pretty?
It's the prettiest in all the land. In fact, Ben and I specifically find his wife very pretty.
Elise, thank you for your question, Emily. Elise, did you have a question?
Why does he end up in jail?
Well, he
Had
was
too much dessert.
That was one thing, and he got into his Wolfmobile after having the dessert. And also, he was a bad man in the end. He was using the spell to get a bigger cave. So obviously, if anyone teaches you an evil spell, don't and lay off the dessert, guys. Make sure you just have a little bit after your dinner.
Once again, Liam, I think you did a pretty good job.
It's story time.
And make sure you tune in tomorrow, kids, because I'm going to be reading The Hungry, Hungry Centipede. No, I won't do that one.
If that's what I think it is, please don't.
Ben and Liam love you.
All right, let's meet the kids who've gathered around this morning. Annie, how are you?
Good.
How old are you, Annie?
6.
6 years old? Well, I'm sure Mum and Dad are run off their feet homeschooling, but we're going to have a great story time today.
And we're also joined by Ethan. Good morning, Ethan.
Good morning.
How old are you, mate?
11.
11. Wow.
Okay, big growing boy. Okay, well, Annie, Ethan, you guys sit down as I read story time today.
And remember, at the end of story time, if you have any questions,
any at all,
Liam will give you a chance to ask them at the end of the story.
Okay, well, today we're going to be reading The Quiet Lambs by Anthony Hopkins. Once upon a time, there lived an avid lampshade maker and lotion enthusiast named Buffalo Bill. Bill was a real nasty pasty. He littered, stole people, and worst of all, he was rude to his mum. He simply had to be stopped, and the only person who could do it was a police officer named Jodie Foster. In order to catch one bad man, Jodie enlists the help of another bad man. Hungry, hungry Hannibal. Hannibal wore a silly mask to stop him from eating too many sausages, and he always made this sound. Hannibal helps Jodie Foster find Buffalo Bill, and when she gets to his house, she shoots him with a water pistol. He gets really upset that all his clothes are wet, so he has a nap. Forever. The end.
It's story time.
Claps there from the kids. Annie, did you have any questions after story time?
What land was he in?
Oh, the lambs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's always confused me. There is no lambs in the story. I suppose in a way, Jodie Foster was the lamb. You never see a lamb. I mean, there's no lamb in there.
Good question,
Good question,
Annie.
Annie.
Good question. Good listening.
Stuff. Yeah, good, very good listening.
Ethan, did you have a question?
Yeah. Why did Hannibal eat so many sausages?
I suppose he just had a thirst for meat. Raw meat. Yeah, I don't know.
So he didn't cook the sausages?
No, he was a weird man, hungry Hannibal, Ethan, and he would eat the sausages raw. So never do that, obviously.
Wow, yeah, don't do that. Always cook your sausages. Annie, did you have another question, or are you happy?
Didn't have another question.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Well, Elise actually joined story time a little bit later on. She's 9 years old. Did you have any questions at all, Elise?
No.
No, we covered everything. With the sausages. Yeah, no, that's fine, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed story time. Make sure you tune in on Monday because I'll have another one.
You're on Nova.
P to the O to the D to the cast.
Can you promise me that you've chosen an age-appropriate story?
This is a great story. It's a real family fun. And now's a great time. Gather those kids around the radio, and all the parents, you can get some time to yourself.
It's story time.
All right, Zach joins us now, 11 years old from Forestville. Good morning, Zach.
Hello.
Are you a bit sick of homeschool, mate?
Yeah, I'm getting pretty sick of it.
Yeah, I could imagine. Well, don't worry. I've got a story to make it all better. Sophie joins us as well from Hillcrest. How old are you, Soph?
6.
You're 6. Okay, very young. Okay, well, good thing I've got an age-appropriate story for the whole family.
And last one, Jonas from Fulham. How old are you, mate?
Good.
Very good.
Okay. All right, kids, well, sit down. Gather around the radio. Today, I'll be reading Marley the Dog by Jen Aniston. Once upon a time, there was a man with a silly nose named Owen Wilson who adopted an adorable yellow Labrador pup called Marley. Marley grows up to be a mischievous handful. He's always chewing the carpet and doing poos where he shouldn't be. That doesn't...
P-U.
Hey?
I said P-U.
Yeah. Let me read the story, mate. Sorry. It's kind of, when I'm out of it and the kids are out of it. So. Okay, I'll just keep going. That doesn't faze Owen Wilson, though. He always just says, "You're a good dog, Marley. You're a good dog." And one day, Marley the dog gets sick with the coronavirus. It's the Delta strain, so the doctors have to give him an injection to put him to sleep. But then he wakes up with superpowers. And Marley the dog flies around the whole world and shoots laser beams out of his eyes, frying the virus. Marley saves the whole entire world. Lockdown ends and all the kids get to go back to school. The end.
It's story time.
All right, now we move on to questions about the story. Zach, you can go first. Any questions?
Why was Owen Wilson's nose so funny?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. I think it was just a bit big and weird, Zach. It was just kind of wonky. And I made him talk like this. You're a good dog, Marley. You're a good dog.
Questions,
We
Zach.
love you, Marley.
Sophie from Hillcrest. Did you have a question, Soph?
No.
Okay.
It's okay. I mean, you're only 6. You're just enjoying the story. Jonas from Fulham. Did you have any questions about Marley the dog this morning?
Yes.
Yeah?
1, I do not want to go to school, so I don't like it. 2, how does Marley get superpowers?
How does Marley get superpowers? The Pfizer injection. they gave it 7 doses of the Pfizer jab. And,
But
yeah.
that's not real.
Oh, well. Sometimes in stories, there are themes that aren't real. And don't ruin it for the rest of the kids, Jonas, okay? Okay. So we can all just... I'm just angry at Jonas. I think he's really spoiled that. I mean, I'm just... How sad's Sophie going to be now?
Yeah.
Knowing that story... There were some parts of that story that weren't real, and other parts that were.
Peace up, Pod Town.
It's story time.
All right, just before we find out what the story's going to be, let's find out who's going to be sitting down to listen. They've got their legs crossed. It is Elise, Sophie, and
Good morning.
Jonas. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Morning.
Right, Elise, how old are you?
I'm 9.
Sophie, what about you?
I'm 8.
And Jonas?
8.
8. Okay, yeah, a little bit of an older class. All right. Well, today, kids, I'll be reading Scratch Face by Al Pacino. Long time ago, a man called Tony Montana got a big scratch on his face, and it ruined his modelling career. So he started to sell icing sugar. Premium grade Colombian icing sugar that makes cakes irresistibly Moorish. His cakes are simply so delicious that one night, when his mummy goes to bed, he snuck into the fridge and ate 20 of them. Then some cake robbers burst into his house with slingshots and big sticks, and he's all worked up from the cakes. So Scratchface stands up on a staircase and mutters the words, "Say hello to my little buddy." And he starts unloading a Nerf gun on him. Bang, 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 like a proper one.
Like Nerf bullets.
Yeah, Nerf bullets.
Yeah.
He says, "Never get in between a man and his cake." The end.
It's story time.
Two producers pulling their hair out this morning.
Okay, let's get some questions. Elise, did you have a question?
How did he get the scratch?
Cat got him. Cat scratched his face. So yeah.
Has he actually got a scratch in the...
Scar, if you will.
Sophie joins us. Sophie, what's your question?
How many cakes did his mum make?
Too many for any human.
Yeah.
Not that you should have much of it anyway, because it's
cakes are
sometimes food.
Yeah.
But he ate tons, like a lot. He made a lot of money from the cake stand.
Are you sure they were cakes?
Yeah, they were cakes, Sophie.
Okay.
No need to ask any more questions.
Jonas, did you have a question?
Yeah. Why did he start making cakes instead of something else?
I don't know. I think it was just probably
He was drawn to cake. There's a lot of money in cake.
a lot of money in cake, and not everyone does it because obviously there's risks around it.
Yeah.
So big money, but a lot of people say like short time payoff, long term, not a good idea.
Yeah.
So I'd say I'd get a normal job. I reckon, Jonas.
I think another pretty successful story time.
Yeah, getting closer to the line every week, isn't it?
That bit's done. Here's another one.
Now, recently, Ben, this segment that we're about to do has come under fire.
Yep.
It's been met with a lot of complaints to
Yep.
the National Commercial Radio Board.
Don't
Lawyers.
tell people what it's called, though, because then they'll complain.
Well, that's it. Lawyers have been involved, and look, we're straightening up the ship a little bit. So today, I'm going to be doing the Saw franchise.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
It's story time.
All right, story time. Liam is going to tell a fun story. And you can just take a minute to yourself, parents. Relax, because the kids can listen to story time.
All right, this morning we're joined by Isabel, Elise, and Patrick. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Liam.
Very good. Someone sounded like they called Liam Leon, but that's okay.
That's fine. Hey, Isabel, how old are you?
I'm 10.
10 years old. Well, I was 10 when I was your age.
That's okay. Isabel, you don't have to respond to that. All right, Liam, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get a story. Today, kids, I'll be reading Seesaw by James Wan and Lee Winnell.
Fun fact, Lee Winnell, we interviewed him once, is Australian director and one of the best. It was
Yeah.
so nice.
Once upon a time, there lived a silly puppet called Jigsaw. Jigsaw had long black hair and red swirlies on his cheeks. He wasn't a real boy, so he couldn't play games. So instead, he rode his trike around and got other boys and girls to play games for him. Special games like Twister, Hungry Hungry Bear Trap. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? Because this room is filling with boiling hot steam in 1 hour. And my personal favourite, Find the Needle in a Haystack. The winner of the games got to star in future stories like Seesaw 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, Seesaw 3D, Jigsaw, and the new one, Spiral, starring Chris Rock. The end.
Is Chris Rock really going to be in the new one?
Yeah, he is.
Wow, okay.
All right, time for some questions, kids. Isabel from Seacliff, did you have any questions about the story?
How did you play Twister?
How do they play Twister?
Well, so you have to put your arms and legs on the right spot. But
Yep.
then your it hurts because your arms and
Get
legs
twisted up.
get properly twisted up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever played Twister before?
I think I may.
Yeah, it's like a fun game
It's a
with
fun
the colourful
game.
circles.
You can play with all the family.
Yeah.
Elise, do you have a question about story time?
Approving these stories.
What was that, sorry?
Who's approving these stories?
Who's approving them?
Well, that's the problem. They weren't getting approved, and that's why the lawyers got involved. But you didn't think that was too rude, did you, Elise? Thought it was age appropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, we're not putting words into your mouth. Patrick! Patrick from Brighton. It's been a while. How you doing?
Good.
Good, mate. Do you have any questions about story time?
How do you play Find a Needle in a Haystack?
Good question. How do you play Find a Needle in a Haystack?
Yeah, that was that was an interesting one. You have to find the needle in a haystack of needles.
That was story time.
I think that one will be pretty complaint-free.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine.
Hope you're having a pod blast with a podcast.
It is everyone's favourite time of the week.
It's story time.
This is your chance, Mum and Dad. Go and get a minute to yourself. Go to the loo, have a shower, do whatever you need to do. Ben and I will look after the kids, don't worry about that. This morning, who do we have gathered around? Katerina, Gemma and Elise. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Very good.
Oh, Katerina, how old are you?
I'm 7.
7.
Very young. Well, thank you for sitting around so quietly with your legs crossed for story time. Today, kids, I'll be reading 50 Spades in Grey by Jamie Dornan. Okay, this will be a fun one. Once upon a time, there lived a hardware store saleswoman named Dakota Johnson. Dakota worked in the spade aisle at Mitre 10. They had a wide selection of 50 different varieties of spades, all in a classic gunmetal grey. One day, she meets local daddy, Christian Gray, who's in the market for some new chains and cattle whips. Dakota upsells Christian into buying a spade, and he's so impressed by her sales techniques that he invites her over to his place for a sleepover. His house is incredible, and when Dakota Johnson arrives, he shows her his toy room. Christian has everything. Polly Pockets, Bindies, Cabbage Patch Kids, Lego, Furbies, Beyblades, Nintendo Wii, Sea Monkeys, a Robo Sapien V1, the Paw Patrol True Metal Total City Rescue playset, a Baby Yoda dolly, and his very own swing. They spent all night playing in the toy room, and they barely slept a wink. The end.
I actually think, surprisingly, you did that pretty well. I think you did a pretty good job of that. All right, let's get questions. Katerina in One Tree Hill, did you have a question for story time?
What's a Nintendo Wii?
And okay, well, it's kind of like a PlayStation that you can go bowling on for old people.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even that old, though. Like, it's...
She's 7, man.
Yeah, yes, yeah, true. Good question, though,
Good
Katerina.
question. Very well done. Gemma, 9 years old from Strathalbyn. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Why was he allowed to swing inside?
Well, I know swings are normally for outside, but Christian, he knew some people in the council, so he got council approval to build a special swing for inside.
Right, so it was an inside swing.
Yeah, but not many people have them.
Yeah.
Gemma. Okay. No, thank you. Elise, 9 years old from Salisbury East. Did you have any questions about my story this morning, 50 Spades in Grey by Jamie Dornan?
Yes. Did they use the toys responsibly?
It depends on who you ask. Definitely played with them a little bit sillier than I would usually. You know, I wouldn't treat Polly Pockets like that, but Christian was pretty rough with his toys, I think. So, yeah.
That was story time.
I thought I'd just end it there for you.
Thank you, bro.
I thought I'd just get out of that one.
Yes, what a funny story.
Okay, kids, who do we have in the circle this morning? Kai, Ivy and Isabel. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Very good.
Ivy, how old are you?
How old are you? 6.
6 years old,
Wow.
Ivy. Okay, well, I think you're going to love this story.
All right, remember, if you have any questions, you can ask them at the end of story time. So have a think about a question.
All right. Today, kids, I'm going to be reading American Pies by Sean William Scott. Once upon a time, there lived 4 silly friends called Jim, Oz, Finch and Kevin. They all wanted to bake their first pie before they left high school. None of the guys had much luck with baking pies. Jim got close at one point with an exchange student called Nadia. She teaches him how to bake pies, but the pastry gets too hot and Jim drops his pie early. This is very embarrassing for Jim because the whole school is watching on a webcam. His dad even sees it and tries to give him a chat about pie making. He even gives him some special magazines so he can practice in his alone time by having a bake. The night before graduation, all of the boys miraculously bake their first pie. They're all very happy. Finch bakes his with Stifler's mum, who's very experienced indeed. The end.
Well, there you go, kids. That was story time. Kai, did you have a question for Liam?
Yes, what pies were they baking?
Special ones. Special apple pies. Have you ever had an apple pie before from McDonald's?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty
They're
yummy.
pretty good, aren't they?
They're the sort of pies they were
Yeah.
baking there. Okay, well, let's move on to young Ivy, the 6-year-old. Did you have any questions about story time this morning, Ivy?
What magazine did his dad give him?
They were Women's Weekly
Yeah.
magazines
Yeah.
with all the cakes and baking tips in them. Yes. Isabel, good morning, Isabel.
Good morning.
Did you have any questions at all for story time?
Yes, did they share their pie?
Yeah. At some point, they said they stirred the pie. Yeah, they did.
I think Isabel said, did they share the pie?
In the third one, I think they did briefly. Yeah.
P to the O to the D to the cast.
Mum and Dad, put your feet up and gather around, kids. It's time for us to entertain you. Patrick, Mia, and Jonas. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben and Liam.
I love that.
Mia, how old are you?
7.
You're 7.
7.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't think you would have heard this story before because it's
All
a bit of
right.
an old one. It came out many years ago.
What's the story, Liam? I'm dying to know.
Well, today, kids, I'll be reading The Shiny by Stephen King. Many years ago, there lived a man with weird eyebrows called Jack Nicholson. And Jack moved his wife and their kid with a bowl cut to an abandoned hotel because he was a bit of a weirdo. The hotel was big, but it was haunted. Sometimes, if you opened the elevator,
yeah.
spooky red cordial would fly out at you.
Yummy.
One day, Jack Nicholson got confused and he started believing that he was a lumberjack and that his whole family were made of wood. They hid in the bathroom and he chopped a hole in the door and said, "Here's Jack Nicholson!" And his wife screamed at him, "I'm not a tree! I'm not a tree! Also, you're not a lumberjack! Your name is just Jack, you dingbat!" She gets so angry at him that she makes Jack sleep outside, and it's so chilly that he gets frozen half to death. And later that night, the other half of him freezes and he gets all the way there. The end.
That was a great story.
Any questions, kids?
Let's find out. Patrick from Brighton, any questions?
No. But
All right.
That was a very strange story.
It was very strange. It's because it's directed by Stanley Kubrick, and a lot of the stuff he does is a bit weird.
Mia, have you got any questions?
Yes, how cold did Jack get when he was outside?
He was colder than ice cream.
Yeah.
So really cold.
Yeah.
His eyebrows actually got frozen. So, yeah, really cold, Mia. Jonas, you're 8 years old from Fulham. Do you have any questions about the story this morning?
What freaky things did Jack do in the hotel?
What spooky things did Jack do in the hotel?
He did a lot of spooky things, and that's because there was these weird little ghost twins that kind of scared him a bit, and there was a fish lady in a bath at one point, which I didn't really get into.
Oh, the fish lady.
Yeah, it was a stinky fish lady, Jonas. Yeah. And then he just wrote like lots of words a lot and said red rum a bit, and then then he thought he was a lumberjack. So, does that answer your question, or does that make you more confused?
That's the question. You answered it.
That was story time.
We'll get pulled off of air for this one day.
That's the first time. All right, that's the closest you've gotten to the line.
Very close. Very, very close.
This is a voiceover sweep to break up the podcast.
All right, Mum and Dad, school holidays, we know. So that you probably run off your feet with all these little kids running around. Well, don't you worry, because I've got a story that's going to keep them occupied for the next 5 minutes. So you put them in front of the radio, turn it up nice and loud, and go and do you.
You can join the circle with today's class. We got Ethan, we got Michelina, and we got Kai. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ben and Liam.
Very good.
Ethan, how old are you?
7.
7. Okay, well, I don't think you've heard this one before. Today, kids, I'll be reading Zero Dark Birdy, written by Chris Pratt and illustrated, or should I say orchestrated, by the US government.
Just a quick side note. Did Chris Pratt help write that?
He was just in it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is he in that?
Yep.
I haven't seen it. Sorry. Anyway, continue.
It's a book, Ben.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a book based on a movie.
Not a movie. No need for the kids to Google it.
Okay.
It's an original story.
It's a book.
Written by Chris Pratt. Once upon a time, there lived a birdie called Jessica Chastain. She was a CIA operative birdie in charge of finding an evil terrorist bird called Osama bin Naughty. She ends up finding Osama hiding like a little rat in a special bird's nest in Abbottabad, Pakistan. She can't get him herself, so she enlists the help of some friendly seals. The seals raid Bin Naughty's nest, smash his eggs, and clip his wings. Jessica Chastain gets to go back to her nest in America, and everyone lives happily ever after. The end.
All right, let's see if anybody has any questions for story time.
Yeah, Ethan, do you have one?
Why did they smash his egg?
Why did they smash his eggs?
He was a bad bird. Mm-hmm. He had it coming for a long time.
Yep.
So, yeah, you get what you get sometimes. Thanks for your question, Ethan. Michelina, do you have a question for story time?
I had the same question as Ethan.
Oh, you had the same question? What, you just wanted to know why they smashed his eggs?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
look, we can come back to you if you have another question. If you don't know, that's okay. We'll come back to you in a second. Kai in Walkley Heights, do you have a question?
How do big fat seals catch a little bird?
How do big fat seals catch a little bird? Good question.
Well, they were very highly trained seals.
Yep.
They were Navy SEALs, in fact.
Were they from SeaWorld?
Yes! They were all the way from SeaWorld, so they were
SeaWorld
able to
seals.
operate on little birds.
Yeah.
And get the job done safely and efficiently.
Very good.
They did destroy one helicopter, though, so lucky they brought another one.
Well, they're seals. I mean, they can't really fly helicopters, can they?
That's it. You can't blame them for crashing that one helicopter when they had to blow it up.
Michelina, did you have another question?
No, sorry.
That's okay. It's totally fine.
It's not like it's a prerequisite or anything.
That was story time.
Wahoo! We all learned a little bit about the world this morning.
That bit's done. Here's another one.
Yep, that's right. It's everyone's favourite time of the week where you can gather the kids around the radio. Parents can kick their feet up and just relax because Liam's going to tell a fun story. Now, Liam, have the lawyers approved this one?
Yes, the lawyers have approved this story 2 days ago.
Have the parents approved this one?
I believe they have, yes.
Okay.
Well, let's meet our class. Isabel, Abraham and Razel, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
All right, I'm very excited for story time this morning. This one's a real classic. I'm going to be reading Rambo the Ram by Sylvester Stallone.
Now, I know you, Liam, and I know you love the Rambo franchise, so I feel like this one you've wanted to do for a while. It must have a soft spot in your heart.
Yeah, I do. This is only the first film in the franchise as well, so I might bring it back.
Yep.
Once upon a time, there lived a homeless drifter ram called Rambo. He was an Italian ram who had a droopy lip. He got that from excessive use of magic muscle juice. One day, Rambo trotted into town, but the police horse in the town didn't like him very much, so he arrested him just for being a bit stinky.
Aww.
It was quite rude considering Rambo the Ram had just done a tour of Nam. The police horses bullied Rambo in the prison stable and he told them to stop.
Don't push it. I give you a warning you won't believe.
They pushed it though, and he let him have it. Rambo rammed his way out of the prison and tore through the entire Washington State Police Department with bullets of kindness. The end.
All right, now let's get some questions from the class. Isabel, did you want to go first? What's your question?
What's magic muscle juice?
What's magic muscle juice?
Okay, Isabel. Well, it's an orange juice that grows your muscles. It's illegal now, but I think it was just frowned upon in the 80s. A guy called Arnold Schwarzenegger used a lot of it. You may not have heard of him.
It basically makes you big and strong, like eating your vegetables.
Yeah, like the Incredible Hulk.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Abraham, you're 6 years old. Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Go for it.
What is Nam?
What is Nam? Oh, yeah, what is Nam? Yeah.
Oh, right. Vietnam.
Yep.
It's a country next to Cambodia. Abraham, have you heard of Vietnam before?
No.
That's a great place. There was a war there from the mid-50s to the mid-70s, but that's all long gone now.
Yep.
But Rambo the Ram was involved with that one.
Good question, though,
Great
Abraham.
question,
Thank you very
Abraham.
much.
We're all learning a lot this morning, aren't we? This is good. Razel joins us now from Aberfoyle Park, 10 years old. What's your question?
How did Rambo fit into the prison?
How did he fit in there? Well, he wasn't in there for very long because what they did is the police officers tried to restrain him and try and shear him, but then he had flashbacks of his time in.
Oh, that's right.
And then he rammed through him and he went into the forest and then he
that's why
covered
it's called
himself in.
Rambo.
That's why he's called Rambo. Yeah.
That was story time.
Did you like that story, Razel? Think it was a good one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe when you're old enough you can watch the DVD.
Here's another bit of curry.
This is great family fun. It's an excuse for mum and dad to have some time for themselves. Turn up the radio, get the kids to gather around because it's story time.
Before Liam reads his story, let's find out who's in the class this morning. We got Gemma, we got Jonas, we got Sophie. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Emily.
And how old are you guys?
8. I'm 9. I'm 8.
Okay, so we got
Okay,
two
yeah.
8-year-olds and a 9-year-old.
Younger class? Well, today, kids, I'll be reading The Exorcist by some 70s horror director. Once upon a time, there lived a little girl called Reagan, and she was possessed by an evil fat demon that made her hungry all the time. She was constantly packing her pie hole with chicken tikka masala, Twiggy sticks, chalky milk nuggies, Mars bars, and chicken crimpies. The list goes on.
Sounds like Liam.
Very funny. Don't listen to him, kids. She ends up eating so much junk that her eyes turn green. So her mum calls in a priest, who's also a part-time PT, to help her. He comes in and screams, "The power of Christ compels you to get on the exercise bike." And Reagan has a massive hissy fit. She starts crawling around on the ceiling and weeing on the carpet. Her head is spinning around as she screams, "Give me chockies, give me chockies, give me chockies." But she ends up sweating out the fat demon over a spin cycle class, and everyone lives happily ever after. The end.
All right, that was story time. Gemma in Strathalbyn, what's your question?
Will my eyes go green if I eat too much junk food?
Will
think
your
so.
eyes go green if you eat too much junk food?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just lay off the curry and Oreos, okay? Lean into the fruit and veg, because otherwise your eyes might go green and you might wee on the carpet.
Gemma, do you like junk food?
Not very much.
Oh, that's good then.
It's good.
Very good. All right.
Your eyes will go green if you lie to us as well.
Jonas in Fulham, what's your question for story time?
Why did she live with her mum?
Why did she live with her mum?
She was a child. I mean, do you live with your parents, Jonas?
Yeah. And I've got a better question.
Oh, okay.
Go on then.
Go for
What's
it.
a pie hole?
Oh, it's a mouth.
That's your mouth because
It's your mouth.
you put pie in it.
You could have just said mouth.
I suppose so. Maybe next time I will, Jonas. I don't want to confuse you, kids. All right, last question. Sophie in Hillcrest, 8 years old. Do you have a question for story time?
Yes. How did her head spin around?
How did her head spin around?
Because she was possessed by the evil fat demon.
Okay.
Okay.
That was story time.
No need to question that anymore. I think that was
Okay.
okay. Yeah, no, fair enough.
P to the O to the D to the cast.
Go now.
Yes, story time. Usually when the parents will leave their kids gathered around the radio and we will entertain them. I specifically will entertain them, Ben, with a story. Last week, you were a little critical.
I was.
You said it wasn't up to your standards, and in a fit of rage, I said, well, you know what? You're doing next week's.
And Liam, I said I'd love to. I'd love to be able to hold the book for story time. So that's what we're doing this morning. I, Ben, am going to be reading the story.
You're going to be reading for Miller, Elise, and Patrick. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Ben and Liam.
Very good, class.
Elise, are you happy about Ben doing story time this morning instead?
Very.
Oh, very good.
I mean, that's nice, but also I'm a bit sad.
Now, remember, if you've got any questions, you can ask them at the end.
Yes.
Now, the story I'll be reading this morning, kids, is The Mummy and Daddy, starring Brendan Fraser.
I love this one.
Once upon a time in Egypt, there was a man called Brendan Fraser who went on a treasure hunt with his sister. While they were looking for the treasure, they woke up a mummy and a daddy called The Rock. The mummy and daddy were both really mad that Brendan Fraser woke them up, and they released millions of cockroaches and they chased them all around the pyramids. Scary. While they were running away from the cockroaches, Brendan Fraser finds a book that makes the mummy and daddy really sleepy. So sleepy that he sneaks up behind them and stabs them with a glass of warm milk.
You're not allowed to say.
The warm milk makes the mummy and daddy so sleepy that they take a long nap and they never wake up again. The end.
It was a great story time.
Thank you,
I
Liam.
appreciate it.
It was fun.
I don't know if you're allowed to say stab.
No, but he didn't actually. It was with a glass of warm milk.
Right.
Yeah. I think it was all
Yeah,
right.
okay,
I think it was
all right.
okay.
Well, let's get the questions from the kids. Miller, you're 8 years old. What's your question for Ben?
If they're in the desert,
Yeah.
where did he get the milk from?
It's a good question, actually. Camel milk, Miller. So he milked a camel,
Right.
and he got some camel milk. Have you ever had camel milk before?
No.
No, neither have
You
I.
might have heard of chamomile tea.
Yes,
chamomile.
but not the same thing.
That's a different thing.
But good question, Miller. Thank you very much. Elise in Salisbury East, did you have a question?
Is The Rock really a daddy?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. He certainly
He
was.
definitely is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, last question from young Patrick for Ben. Story time, what is it?
What happened to Brendan Fraser?
What happened to Brendan Fraser? It's a good
Fraser.
it's a good
It's a
point.
good question, actually. There's a second story and a third story that I don't think I'm going to bother with because
No.
they're not very good stories.
And there is a lot of clickbait articles
Yeah.
explaining why Hollywood forgot about Brendan Fraser, but I think he seems like actually quite a nice guy.
Yeah, he does seem pretty nice.
To answer your question, Patrick, he just didn't do films for a while. He put on a little bit of weight, but I think he's actually going to be making a comeback soon.
That was story time.
You want to do next week's?
No, you can do it again.
I kind of found it a lot easier for you to just do it, so you can take the reins, buddy, if you want.
You're on the...
That bit's done. Here's another one.
Ah, yes. It is now time for the most complained about segment we've ever done. It is now at the point where I have to send my story time to lawyers 2 days before I do it so they can check off on it. I'm not joking.
Honestly, it started off with, go on, just do it. And then it became, okay, just send it to the boss.
Yeah.
And then it became, send it to the boss so the boss can send it to the lawyers.
And then the lawyers can strike out anything that they deem unnecessary, and then you can do it. So it's safe without being safe.
So, Liam, have the lawyers tick this one off.
They have, surprisingly.
Okay. Right.
So it is a story for children. Parents, you can leave your kids around the radio. Let's see who's gathered around for story time this morning. It's Kai, Gemma and Isaac. Good morning, guys.
Good morning,
Ben and Liam.
All right, Liam's going to tell us his story. And then at the end, if you have any questions, you can pop your hand up and we'll get that in question time.
Today, kids, I'm going to be reading Broken Back Mountain by Heath Ledger. There once lived a cowboy called Jake Gyllenhaal. He spent all day, every day, herding sheep and not loving his wife, Anne Hathaway. One day, Jake decided he wanted to climb the most dangerous mountain in all the land. Broken Back Mountain. They call it that on account of the fact that anyone who tried to climb it broke their back.
Yep.
Ouch, that would hurt. Jake slowly went up the mountain, but sure enough, he fell off and broke his back. Luckily, he was rescued by another cowboy, a very strong one, called Heath Ledger. Heath took Jake back to his tent and really nursed him back to health. Twice, actually. And after that, they became great mates. Like really good mates. The end. All right, kids.
I have a few questions. I might save mine for the end, though, after the kids.
Okay.
Just in case, they don't answer,
Yeah,
I'll ask mine.
yeah, fair enough. Kai, you're 7 years old from Walkley Heights. What's your question for story time this morning?
Where is the mountain?
Broken Back Mountain. I think Wyoming from memory in the 60s, I think. Thanks, Kai.
Thanks for Kai.
Gemma, do you have a question?
Yes. Why were they such good friends?
Why were they such good friends?
Well, they just went on a lot of fishing trips together, I suppose. They got really close.
Yep.
Super close.
Good question, Gemma.
Thanks, Gemma.
Thanks for that.
Appreciate that.
Isaac, what's your question?
Did they live happily ever after?
Not really, no. It would be nice to think that, but in those times it was different. So.
Oh, I've got a question.
Oh, yes, Ben, you've got a question?
When you said they're in the tent,
Yes.
the tent scene,
Yeah.
how's he nursing back to health?
Gives him a good seeing to. It's just a good once over.
That was story time.
Don't think the lawyers approved that question. So that could be the last one we ever do.
The lawyers can't approve what I say.
Yeah, they can't hold us all down, am I right? Ben and Liam forever.
Yes, what a funny story.
That's right, kids. Gather around your radio. Mum and Dad, you can do what you want because this is when Ben and I entertain the children. Let's meet our kids today. Sophie, Pia and Isabel. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning, Ben and Liam.
All right, sit down in a circle, cross your legs. We'll pass around the orange slices and Liam's going to tell us a story. Remember, at the end, you can ask a question.
This morning, kids, I'll be reading What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? Creek by the Australian Film Corps. Once upon a time, there lived 3 British backpacker sheep. They were best friends and they travelled together all across outback Australia. And one day, whilst they were trotting around in the desert, their sheep watchers stopped working. Luckily, at that exact moment, another sheep with mutton chops and a flannelette shirt passed by. They asked the sheep in flannelette for the time, but before he could answer, he ripped off his sheep mask. Turns out he wasn't a sheep at all. He was actually a scary wolf called John Jarrett. Before they could run away, John Jarrett pounced on 2 of the sheep and ate them like a tasty lamb kebab from Zambreros. He used a magic spell to turn the last one into a head on a stick. The end.
All right, let's get some questions from today's class. Sophie, you're 8 years old in Hillcrest. What's your question?
What's a mutton chop?
It's like a way of styling your facial hair. And hilariously, it's also a cut of lamb.
It is,
So
yeah.
It's doubly
Yeah.
funny.
Well, mutton is older lamb. It's not a
That's
lamb
it,
chop.
yes.
Yeah.
John Lennon used to have mutton chops. Do you know who John Lennon is, Sophie?
No.
Yeah, you're 8. He was in a band called the Beatles. You heard of them?
No. Yeah.
Oh, you have? Very good.
Good, yeah.
Well, thanks for your question, Sophie. Pia, you're 7 years old. Do you have a question for Liam?
Yeah.
Go
Why did John eat the sheep?
Why did John eat the
Jarrett,
sheep?
because he was hungry and he lived in the middle of nowhere, so he could get away with it. And in fact, he did for many years.
Yeah.
So he never went hungry. That's for sure.
There was a 2 and a 3, wasn't there?
I think there was, and also a TV
series on Stan.
Hey, Isabel, you're 10 years old. Do you have a question this morning about what's the time, Mr. Wolf Creek?
Yes, I do. What did they do with the last one on the stick?
They locked it away in a special castle.
What, they locked who away?
The one on the stick.
Oh, right.
Very murky territory.
That was story time.
It doesn't get much closer to the line than that, ladies and gentlemen.
P to the O to the D to the cast.
There's Ben in there and Liam too. Round up the kids, we've got something for you. Turn up the dial and listen for a while. It's story time.
Gather round, kids. Gather round. Mum and Dad, take some time to yourself. It's story time. This morning we have Pia, Ethan and Emma in the class. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, the class sounds a little bit sleepy this morning,
Yeah,
but
they
that's
do.
okay. If you
Yeah.
have any questions, you can ask them after the story.
How old are you, Emma?
6.
Okay.
6.
Well, I'm glad this story is age appropriate. Today, kids, I'm going to be reading Knocked Down by Judd Apatow. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful princess called Catherine Heigl. And one night, she left her palace to have a regal boogie at the local discotheque. Whilst dancing around, she accidentally knocked down a poor street troll called Seth Rogen. She helped the street troll up and apologised profusely. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Seth replied by breathing smoke into her face and saying, They end up back at the palace together after smashing a little too much mead. That night, to return the favour, Seth knocks Catherine down instead. At that point, they find a troll baby. They wake up, put their differences aside, and raise the child themselves. The end.
All right, let's get some questions. Pia in Ross Trevor, what's your question?
Where did they find the baby?
Where did they find the baby?
In the palace cabbage patch. Yeah, cabbage patch. That's where they found the baby.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. No need to question that.
Okay.
Ethan, you're 7 years old. Do you have a question about story time?
What's made?
What's mead?
Good question.
Yeah.
Mead is like a beer, but it's made from fermented honey. Does that sound nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you're too young to drink mead just yet, but I think it was big in like medieval times. Trolls love it. Last question from young 6-year-old Emma for story time. Do you have any, Emma?
No.
Was that a no? You don't have any questions?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy story time though?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good.
I love the honesty.
That was story time.
No questions asked. Just enjoyed it. That's fine.
Very cute.
Ben and Liam is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcasts.com.au.